Guys, so for today, there are two poems that we're gonna look at. And with these poems, one thing to be mindful of is that there are different types. Okay, so the text analysis is different forms of poetry. So, form can be the way the poem looks. Form can also be the way the poet uses sounds and figures of speech. Forms can be the way the poet uses rhymes and rhythms. The poems you're about to read are written in very different forms. So, the first one, is free verse. What free verse means is that it does not have a pattern of rhymes, or it might not even have any rhymes at all. Free verse is not written in meter, and the lines may vary in length. So, that poem that we did a few days ago, Alone in the Nets, was written in free verse as an example. Another type of poem is called a limerick. So, limerick poems are usually funny, they're kind of weird. They're written in a rigid form, though, which means that they follow very, very specific rules. They have to have 5 lines, a regular D dum meter, and a regular rhyme scheme. So, when we get to that poem, I'll explain that a little bit more. But for this, you're looking at two types of poems, which are free verse and limerick. When you go do your poetry project, quote unquote, right? I say project because it's more of a journal. You will be writing a free verse and you will be writing a limerick. So it's really important that when you listen to these, that you're remembering, hey, I'm going to have to do one of these, and you can go back and look at this as an example. And just like last time, paraphrasing is our reading strategy, which basically means, in other words, is taking what the poet is saying and putting it into your own words. So this is really important for you guys to be able to do when you read poetry, because poetry looks and sounds different than what we normally speak like to one another or what you normally read. So it's really important that you practice going through and you're like not getting overwhelmed by like, I just don't get this. Instead, take a step back and focus on being able to paraphrase or putting what the poet is saying into your own words. So the first poem that we are going to look at is Who Knows If the Moons. While this poem is going, I want you just to be listening. Again, just like last time, you will have a Google form about these poems. So it's really important that you understand what they're about. So then you're able to complete that form.
Who knows if the moons? E. Cummings.
You are about to read 3 playful poems. Who Knows If the Moons by E. Cummings takes you up and away into an imaginary world. Then, Limericks by Edward Lear and Ogden Nash will introduce you to strange and funny characters. Read along and be prepared for laughs.
Who knows if the moon's a balloon coming out of a keen city in the sky, filled with pretty people? And if you and I should get into it, if they should take me and take you into their balloon, why then we'd go up higher with all the pretty people than houses and steeples and clouds. Go sailing away, and away sailing into a keen city which nobody's ever visited, where always it's spring, and everyone's in love, and flowers pick themselves.
So this poem, the biggest thing I want you to remember with this one is that this is free verse, all right? And this question down here that asks forms of poetry, reread lines 13 to 16. Why do you think Cummings, so like that's the author, broke these lines the way he did? So that's like looking at structure. Why would he choose to separate these? We talked about this with other poems, and we talked about how sometimes poets will break lines to show emphasis. So, what I want you to think about with this poem is why would it make sense for the author to want to show emphasis about the last few lines of this particular poem? So, moving on to the next one, and this one is a limerick. So, and this is the picture that actually goes with Who Knows the Moon. So, it gives you a visual of what they're trying to say in the poem. This next one, the 2 limericks, you see the structure similar to the head of lettuce. Has a picture, and the poem is centered in the picture, which in this one happens to be this man's beard. So
2 limericks. There was an old man with a beard, who said, "It is just as I feared. 2 owls and a hen, 4 larks and a wren, have all built their nests in my beard." By Edward Lear.